I just want to show you a couple of ways we can use this really. Now this was an example. We were very fortunate in the project in one way, because the university decided to reorganize its research around some main, what they call, grand challenges at the time. And so of course they enlisted us to take part in this. And this was incredibly valuable because it allowed us to test this out in practice, in an actual, I suppose, in a real, quite fast-moving situation. Here's an example. Now, of course, this was because the university was doing stuff with the National Physical Laboratory on this area of work metrology, which is the science of measurement. And if you look here, these are the actual, there is a metrology group at the university. There's only about 3 or 4 people in it. But what we found using this tool is that we could find people ranging from everything from geology, building science, different parts of engineering, to biology. We were able to find people from lots of different areas, which then, of course, we could use something like this to bring them together to discuss in different ways. Now, this one here, this is a very interesting one because it demonstrates that this thing really does work, because people sometimes don't believe this until they actually see the hard cash. This was an example of some work I'd actually done with another university, in this case it's at Plymouth University. And what we've done there was map one area of work which was to do with the aging society, and we mapped another one at the university which was to do with the digital media, and then we used a number of techniques together with some of the researchers there to find ways of linking up these different areas. And lo and behold, we found a very nice one here, and it's now a Research Council funded project. And we developed a number of techniques. I haven't got time to talk about them here, but if people are interested, I'll show you how we can use them not just in different areas, but in, say, one area of research to generate really new opportunities to find maybe some of the gaps in research. So a number of techniques working with researchers which things like this facilitate. Okay, a very quick thing here. Of course, you've got to do stuff in terms of supporting communities, of looking at online networks, and we did our own online networks, but in particular what we found, which is obvious really, is that people have preferences, there's no single solution, so it's all about integration. So we did a lot of how you integrate different networks together and use them, and also how you integrate them with different tools which you can use for collaborative working in different ways. But what I want to go on to, because this is very much the province of this network, is to look at one way of taking that on. And this is a thing which we called surround mind, and the idea was, again, to look at, okay, we looked at how physical networks develop, and we did a lot of work on what constitutes ways of getting physical meetings working, we looked at the virtual networks. What about how you merge them together, something I know which is of a lot of interest to people here. And so we were looking at immersive systems of ways of being able to combine physical and virtual environments. And I want to talk to you a little bit about this. I'll make a little apology because talking about this really doesn't make sense. It's funny, I demonstrated this as a video. I've got a video to show some on the first Spires meeting that we had, demonstrated to some of you might know John Whittle from Lancaster University, and a bit later on I had a demonstration at our university to a group of researchers there, and suddenly we were doing this, and then from like this embodied voice said, well Jim, when you showed this to me before it didn't make any sense, but I see exactly what you mean now, and you have to be able to experience this because it really doesn't mean very much just looking at a picture. But let me explain these two things. What this one there is about is to say, can we take concepts from people's profiles? Supposing we've got a meeting of researchers. Of course, in this case, and in most cases, it's around a particular topic. So we have something which effectively seeds it with information about that topic, information from the profiles of the researchers, and then things which are taken out of the live discussion. And it puts it in this form where it can be visualized and made tactile in a number of different ways. Because in particular, it's looking at how this effectively enables different ways for people to interact with the information. So for instance, in this, there's a number of ways. We did this sort of fairly simply in this example, but we're developing that further now. So as an example, say, you look at these different different ideas and concepts there, and ones you think which are relevant to the discussion, you can click on in different ways, and those ones persist. Once you don't, they fade away gradually. So the idea is you get a kind of collective filtering. We also use some other tools, developing ways of these things, different terms which might have some similarities, clustering together, and so on. So it's a combination of that interaction, but facilitated by various automatic means. Very quickly mentioned, this is a really fantastic development. That one there, the lower one. What that was about, it was a company that we were working with, a incredible company. They're doing this thing for the Olympics, and they wanted to test out some of their ideas with the public. So they organised this event at the main art gallery and museum in Coventry. And what this is here is that this is a virtual representation of that, which is actually in that physical space. So what happens is people in the physical space can interact with the virtual space. And in the virtual space, of course, you can get people from all over the world. In fact, we have people from all the way from US to Australia took part in this. And similarly, in the virtual world, you could effectively see what it looked like in the physical world. And what happened was, if you sort of texted or tweeted about it, your ideas about this were in this here, in this sort of word cloud there. And what we found was this created all sorts of really interesting effects. People very quickly were able to see things that they were thinking about, but see that they actually are important. This one was not meant to be as representational as that one up there, so it uses some different techniques. But again, combining the virtual and the physical in different ways. Again, because there's some time about this, I have actually got because we're very interested in taking this on, so if people are interested in collaboration on this, I've got here a few printed copies, but I've got a sort of a more detailed explanation which really explains some more of the nuances which are very interesting in terms of this. Right, what I want to just finish off with is really, I said this was about results and prospects, because of course the problem with projects, and this one I think went very well, is that of course you're left at the end with loads more things you want to do. So please, again, this is also an invitation for people to talk about collaboration. So how do we take this on? One thing obviously is saying, okay, we've found ways of linking people within the university when you want to extend that. So we're doing this obviously again with different ways with multi-universities. So we're working with, there's a White Rose Consortium in Yorkshire, working with Cambridge on different specific areas, and so on. But I mentioned one, and this is a really exciting one. If anyone's interested in this challenge, come and talk to me, because we were asked, amazed at this, Academia Europaea, which is probably the most distinguished scientific organisation in Europe, 50 Nobel Prize winners in there. They said to us, okay, how do you link them up? Now that's a very interesting thing, and I have to say I was a bit gobsmacked by that, because I did say this, and I was correctly put down. I said, I'm a Nobel Prize winner. Do I really need to work with anyone else? And they said, oh, quite the opposite, of course, But the question is, how do you do that? How do you find these, let's say, that serendipitous connections for people who are maybe at the top of their trade like that? One of the other things we did very interestingly is work with business and communities. Now, I just mentioned this example here. That was this group we set up. And this is some of the bizarre aspects of the project in a way, but maybe it also gave us a lot of lessons. Now, what happened was, again, because we used some of these tools to create a group that there was a requirement for, which was working on to do with waste, which isn't a subject that I or anyone else in the project team had much experience with. And what happened, because of this work we did, about 3 weeks ago, there was a national conference organised on this zero waste thing, complete with the Minister for the Environment speaking. And because of BRAIN, that actually invited us and said, well, can you organise, in fact, 2 workshops at this conference? I thought, well, that's a bit weird, really. I'm not a waste person at all. But what was really interesting is through that, what has come about is, and I had to speak on there last week to the great and the good in the region, because they said, great, now what we want is a zero waste research centre out of this, because you have demonstrated how this will work, and so we've effectively had that to work with as well. So again, it demonstrates maybe how some of these things can get embedded in communities and can do a lot. We've been